My name is Marcus, and I've spent the last 20 years working as an architect in Northern California. You'd think after 2 decades of designing homes for other people's dreams, I'd understand the structures we build around our own lives. But on a cold February morning in 2024, I found something in my own home that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my late wife, and the nature of love itself. My wife, Elena, died 6 months ago. Breast cancer stage 4, diagnosed too late. She was only 47 years old. We'd been married for 22 years, and in all that time, I thought I knew her completely. I thought we'd shared everything, our dreams, our fears, our secrets. I was wrong. That morning, the Napa Valley fog was thick enough to taste, rolling through the vineyard behind our small house like a living thing. The air smelled of wet earth and the faint sweetness of dormant grapevines waiting for spring. I could hear the distant sound of a tractor somewhere on the neighboring property, and closer, the drip of condensation falling from the eaves onto the wooden deck Elena had loved so much. I was finally cleaning out her closet. 6 months of avoiding it. 6 months of walking past that door and pretending her clothes weren't still hanging there, still holding the faint ghost of her jasmine perfume. But my daughter Sophia was coming to visit next week, and she gently suggested it was time. Thought, how do you pack away 22 years of someone's life? The closet smelled like her, jasmine, and something else. Something uniquely Eleanor that I'd never been able to name. Her dresses hung in neat rows, organized by color the way she'd always insisted. Her shoes were lined up on the floor, each pair holding memories. The red heels from our 20th anniversary dinner, the hiking boots from our trip to Yosemite, the simple flats she wore to Sophia's college graduation. I started with the easy things, old t-shirts, worn jeans, things that held no particular significance. I folded them carefully, placing them in boxes destined for donation. But when I reached her winter coats, I hesitated. Elena had loved coats. She said they were like armor. You chose which version of yourself to present to the world, based on what you wrapped around your shoulders. Her favorite was a deep, burgundy wool coat she'd bought in San Francisco years ago. She'd worn it the day we got married at City Hall, too impatient to wait for a formal wedding. She'd worn it to every important moment of our lives together. I pulled the coat from its hanger and pressed it to my face, inhaling deeply. The jasmine was stronger here, mixed with the wool's earthy scent and something that might have been the salt air from our last trip to Bodega Bay. My chest ached with missing her. That's when I felt it. Something stiff in the inside pocket. Reflection. Some discoveries are better left unmade. I reached in and pulled out an envelope. It was cream-colored, high-quality stationery, the kind Elena used for special occasions. The envelope wasn't sealed, just tucked closed. On the front, in Elena's elegant handwriting, was a single name, Daniel. My blood went cold. My name is Marcus. Who the hell was Daniel? With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. The date at the top read January 15th, 2024, just 3 weeks before Elena died. The letter was in her handwriting, every curve and loop achingly familiar. My dearest Daniel, it began. Oh my God, oh my God. I'm writing this letter knowing I'll probably never send it. The doctors say I have weeks, maybe a month if I'm lucky. And I find myself thinking about you more and more as the end approaches, about what we had, about what we lost, about the choice I made 23 years ago that changed both our lives forever. I need you to know that I never stopped loving you, not for a single day. Marcus is a good man, a wonderful man actually, and I've built a beautiful life with him. Sophia is the greatest gift I've ever received, but there's a part of my heart that has always belonged to you, Daniel. The part that remembers dancing in the rain outside your apartment in Berkeley. The part that remembers the way you said my name like it was a prayer. I chose stability over passion. I chose safety over risk. And most days I don't regret it. But on the days when I do, on the days when I wonder what our life might have looked like, those days have been getting more frequent as my time runs out. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to write these words, to make them real, to acknowledge that you existed, that we existed, even if no one else ever knows. If I were braver, I would send this letter. I would find you and tell you in person. But I'm not brave, Daniel. I never was. That's why I chose Marcus instead of you, because loving you was terrifying, and loving him was safe. Thank you for being my first real love. Thank you for showing me what passion felt like. even if I was too scared to hold on to it. I hope you found happiness. I hope you found someone who was braver than me. Forever yours, even now, Elena. I sat down on the closet floor, my back against the wall, the letter shaking in my hands. The burgundy coat lay crumpled beside me like a wounded thing. Outside, the fog was beginning to lift, and thin streams of California sunlight were breaking through, but I couldn't feel any warmth. Thought, 22 years. I thought I knew her for 22 years. My wife had loved another man. Not just before we met. I could have understood that. But she'd carried that love throughout our entire marriage. She'd written this letter 3 weeks before she died, confessing that part of her heart had never belonged to me. The jasmine scent that had comforted me moments ago now felt suffocating. The closet full of her things suddenly looked different. Not relics of our shared life, but evidence of a woman I'd never truly known. Who was Daniel? Where was he now? Did he know Elena had died? Did he know she'd spent her last weeks thinking about him instead of me? I needed answers. I needed to understand the woman I'd buried 6 months ago, the woman I'd loved with everything I had, the woman who'd apparently loved someone else the entire time. I pulled out my phone and called my daughter. "Sophia," I said, my voice cracking, "I need you to come home. I found something about your mother." The investigation that followed would take me across California, into Elena's past, and ultimately to a truth I never expected, a truth that would destroy me and rebuild me in equal measure. Sophia arrived the next morning, driving up from Los Angeles in record time. I heard her car crunching on the gravel driveway just as the sun was burning off the last of the valley fog. The air smelled of coffee. I'd been making pot after pot all night, unable to sleep, and the neighbor's rooster was crowing its usual morning complaint. When Sophia walked through the door, her face was tight with worry. She had Elena's dark eyes and my stubborn jaw, a combination that had made her formidable even as a child. At 21, she was already more self-possessed than I'd ever been. "Dad, what's going on? You sounded terrible on the phone." I handed her the letter without a word. Thought, how do you tell your daughter that her mother had secrets? I watched Sophia's face as she read, watched her expression shift from confusion to shock to something I couldn't quite name. When she finished, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Who's Daniel?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I was hoping you might." Sophia shook her head slowly. "Mom never mentioned anyone named Daniel. Not once." She read the letter again, her brow furrowed. "Berkeley. She mentions his apartment in Berkeley. Mom went to UC Berkeley, right? Before she transferred to Davis?" I nodded. Eleanor had spent her freshman and sophomore years at Berkeley before transferring. She'd always said it was because she preferred the quieter campus, the agricultural focus that matched her interest in sustainable farming. But now I wondered if there had been another reason. "Dad, this letter is dated January 15th. That's 3 weeks before she died." "I know. She was so sick by then. She was barely conscious some days. How did she even write this?" I remembered those final weeks, the hospital bed we'd set up in the living room, the morphine drip, the way Elena would drift in and out of lucidity. I'd thought I'd been with her every moment, but there must have been times when I'd stepped away, when she'd gathered enough strength to write this letter and hide it in her favorite coat. The coat she'd asked me to bring to her, I realized with a jolt. 2 days before she died, she'd asked me to bring her the burgundy coat. She said she was cold, wanted to feel it around her shoulders. I'd wrapped it around her frail body and held her while she cried. She'd been hiding the letter. She'd been saying goodbye to Daniel. Reflection. The person who shares your bed can still be a stranger. Over the next few days, Sophia and I became detectives in Elena's past. We started with her college records. Sophia managed to access some information through alumni networks and old friends of Elena's we'd tracked down on social media. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Elena's college roommate, a woman named Patricia Chen, who now lived in Sacramento. Patricia had stayed in touch with Elena sporadically over the years, mostly through Christmas cards and occasional emails. "Daniel," Patricia said when I called her, her voice immediately softening. "Oh my God, Daniel Reyes, I haven't thought about him in years." "You knew him." "Everyone knew Daniel and Eleanor," Patricia said. "They were legendary on campus, the kind of couple that made everyone else jealous. He was in the music program, played guitar like an angel. And Elena was different when she was with him, more alive somehow. They were together for almost 2 years. I felt sick. What happened? Patricia was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was careful. Daniel was passionate but unstable. Brilliant musician, but he had demons. Depression, I think. Maybe bipolar, though nobody talked about those things back then. He dropped out junior year, said he was going to pursue music in LA. He wanted Elena to come with him. But she didn't. No, she transferred to Davis instead, said she needed stability, needed a real future. I think it broke her heart, honestly. But Elena was practical. She knew Daniel was a beautiful disaster waiting to happen. I thanked Patricia and hung up, my mind reeling. Elena had chosen stability over passion. She'd written those exact words in her letter. She'd chosen safety over risk. She'd chosen me, or rather she'd chosen the idea of me, the kind of man who would give her the life she thought she wanted. But she'd never stopped loving him. The beautiful disaster named Daniel Reyes. I need to find him, I told Sophia that evening. We were sitting on the deck as the sun set over the vineyard, the sky turning shades of purple and gold that Elena had always loved. The air smelled of wood smoke from a neighbor's fireplace and the last of the winter jasmine that Elena had planted along the fence. Dad, are you sure that's a good idea? I need to know, Sophia. I need to understand who your mother really was. Sophia reached over and took my hand. What if you don't like what you find? Then at least I'll know the truth. That's more than I have now. Thought, the truth can set you free, but first it might destroy you. It took another week to find Daniel Reyes. Social media, public records, music industry databases. Sophia and I scoured everything. Finally, we found him through an old Berkeley Music Department newsletter that mentioned his name. Daniel Reyes, age 49. Professional musician, mostly session work and small club gigs. Currently living in Santa Cruz, just 2 hours away. Elena's first love had been 2 hours away our entire marriage. I made the drive on a Thursday morning, leaving before dawn so I'd arrive before I could talk myself out of it. The coast highway was empty and beautiful, fog clinging to the cliffs as I wound my way south. The ocean smelled of salt and kelp, and somewhere overhead, seagulls were crying their endless hungry cries. I didn't know what I was going to say to Daniel Reyes. I didn't know if he even remembered Elena. But I knew I couldn't move forward without understanding what she'd meant to him and what he'd meant to her. If you're finding this story moving, please like and subscribe. Have you ever discovered a secret about someone you thought you knew completely? Share your experience in the comments below. Daniel Reyes lived in a small cottage near the Santa Cruz boardwalk. The house was weather-beaten and salt-stained, painted a faded blue that reminded me of old jeans. Wind chimes hung from the porch, dozens of them, creating a constant soft symphony that mixed with the sound of waves crashing on the beach below. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I found the courage to knock. The morning air smelled of seaweed and coffee from a nearby cafe, and I could hear a guitar playing inside the cottage, something soft and melancholy that seemed to match the overcast sky. When Daniel opened the door, I understood immediately why Elena had loved him. He was tall and lean, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that held a kind of permanent sadness, even when he smiled. His hands were calloused, guitar player's hands, and he wore a faded flannel shirt over paint-stained jeans. There was something about him that felt artistic and untamed, completely different from the structured, predictable life I'd built. "Can I help you?" "My name is Marcus," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I was Elena Rodriguez's husband. The change in his expression was immediate. Shock, pain, recognition, all cycling through in seconds. Was? She died. 6 months ago. Cancer. Daniel grabbed the doorframe like he needed it to stay standing. Oh God, Elena. Oh God. Thought. He still loves her. After all these years, he still loves her. He invited me inside. The cottage was cluttered but comfortable. Guitars hanging on every wall, stacks of sheet music on every surface, the smell of old wood and guitar polish thick in the air. He made coffee in a battered French press, his hands shaking slightly as he poured. "I didn't know," he said quietly, handing me a cup. The ceramic was warm against my palms. I tried to find her a few times over the years, but she'd changed her name, moved away. I eventually stopped looking. Figured she'd made her choice clear. "She wrote you a letter," I said. 3 weeks before she died. I found it yesterday." I pulled out the letter and handed it to him. I watched Daniel read it, watched the tears stream down his face, watched him press the paper to his chest like it was something precious. "She never stopped loving me," he whispered. "All these years I thought she'd forgotten. She didn't forget. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Apparently, she never forgot. Daniel looked at me then, really looked, and his expression was complicated. Grief, guilt, sympathy, all mixed together. You came here to confront me? To tell me to stay away from her memory? I came here because I don't understand, I said, my voice breaking. I was married to her for 22 years. We had a daughter. We built a life. And now I find out there's this whole part of her heart I never had access to. I need to know what you had with her. I need to know what I was missing. Reflection. Sometimes we seek answers that only bring more questions. Daniel set down the letter and was quiet for a long moment. Through the window, I could see the ocean, grey and endless, waves rolling in with a rhythm that felt ancient and indifferent to human pain. What Elena and I had, he finally said, was the kind of love that burns everything down. We were 20 years old, full of passion and poetry and all the intensity that age brings. We'd stay up all night talking about music and philosophy and the future. We'd make love until dawn and then walk to the beach to watch the sunrise. It was beautiful and consuming and completely unsustainable. Why did she leave? Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because I was falling apart and she couldn't save me. I had episodes, dark periods where I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't play music, couldn't be the person she needed. I wanted her to run away with me to LA to live on passion and dreams. And Elena, he shook his head. Elena was smart enough to know that passion doesn't pay rent, that dreams don't raise children. So she chose me instead. She chose stability. She chose a future she could count on. He looked at me with something like respect. She chose well, Marcus. I couldn't have given her what you did. I know that. I've made my peace with it. But I hadn't made my peace with it. Then why did she write this letter? Why did she spend her last weeks thinking about you? Daniel picked up the letter again, tracing Elena's handwriting with his finger. Because when you're dying, you think about roads not taken, about choices you can't undo. She didn't write this letter because she regretted marrying you. She wrote it because she was saying goodbye to a version of herself that she'd left behind in Berkeley, the girl who danced in the rain and believed in passionate love. She wrote that she never stopped loving you. And I'm sure that's true, Daniel said gently. But Marcus, loving me didn't mean she didn't love you. The heart isn't a pie that runs out of slices. Elena could love the memory of what we had and still love the reality of what you built together. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Thought, can you love someone completely if part of your heart belongs to someone else? I stayed in Santa Cruz for 3 hours, listening to Daniel tell stories about the Elena I'd never known. The girl who'd climbed on rooftops to watch meteor showers. The girl who'd written poetry on napkins in coffee shops. The girl who'd believed in magic and music and the transcendent power of love. It was like discovering that my wife had had a twin, someone who looked like her but lived a completely different life. And I found myself mourning not just the Elena I'd lost, but the Elena I'd never gotten to meet. When I finally left, Daniel walked me to my car. The wind had picked up, making his wind chimes sing their chaotic song. The smell of coming rain was in the air. She loved you, Marcus, Daniel said. Whatever she felt for me, it didn't diminish what she felt for you. Don't let this letter poison 22 years of memories. I wanted to believe him. I desperately wanted to believe him. But driving back to Napa, the coastal fog swallowing my car like a grey ghost, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been living in a house with a hidden room, a room my wife had never let me enter. I didn't tell Sophia about my visit to Daniel. Not at first. Instead, I spent 3 days alone in the house, drinking too much wine from Elena's favorite vineyard down the road, reading and rereading her letter until I'd memorized every word. On the 4th day, Sophia found me on the deck at 2 in the morning, staring at the stars through a haze of Pinot Noir. Dad, you're scaring me. I handed her my glass. Did you know your mother was a poet? What? She wrote poetry in college. Daniel told me. She'd write on napkins, on the backs of receipts, anywhere she could. Did she ever show you any poetry? Sophia sat down beside me. No, I didn't even know she liked poetry. Reflection. How many pieces of someone do we bury without ever knowing they existed? I thought I knew her, I said, my voice thick with wine and grief. But there's this whole person she used to be that I never met. This passionate, artistic, reckless girl who climbed on rooftops and danced in the rain. And I have to wonder, did I kill that girl? Did marrying me, did choosing stability over passion, did that destroy who she really was? Dad, no. She wrote that loving me was safe, I continued. Safe, Sophia. Like I was a pension plan. Like I was life insurance. She didn't choose me because I set her soul on fire. She chose me because I was a good investment. Sophia grabbed my hand, squeezing hard. Stop it. You're spiraling, and you're wrong. How do you know? Because I knew Mom too. And yes, she was practical and organized and liked stability. But Dad, I also remember her dancing with you in the kitchen when she thought I wasn't watching. I remember the way she looked at you when you walked into a room, like she still couldn't believe her luck. Whatever she felt for Daniel was ancient history. What she felt for you was real and present and alive. I wanted to believe her. Oh God, I wanted to believe her. But then Sophia said something that changed everything. Did you look in the coat pocket again? What? The burgundy coat. You said you found the letter in the inside pocket. But Dad, that coat has 2 inside pockets. Did you check them both? I hadn't. I'd found the letter and stopped looking. We went to the closet together, the jasmine scent hitting me like a wave as I pulled out the burgundy coat. Sophia reached into the second pocket, deeper, hidden in the lining, and pulled out another envelope. This one was addressed to me. Marcus, it said on the front, in Elena's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Thought, some letters are meant to be found together. My darling Marcus, I read aloud, my voice breaking. If you're reading this, you found my letter to Daniel. I knew you would eventually. You always were thorough, and I knew you'd clean out my closet when I was gone. I need to explain. Please, please let me explain. Yes, I loved Daniel. First love is like a scar. It fades, but never completely disappears. I wrote him that letter because I needed to say goodbye to that chapter of my life, to acknowledge that it existed before I died. It was closure, Marcus. It was an exorcism. But here's what I need you to understand. Daniel was a beautiful dream. You were my beautiful reality. And reality is harder than dreams, but it's also more precious. Do you know why I really chose you? It wasn't because you were safe. It was because when I was with you, I became the best version of myself. With Daniel, I was chaos and passion and all-consuming fire. But fire burns out. What you and I built, what we cultivated together, like the vineyards we love so much, that was sustainable. That was growth. That was life. I wrote in Daniel's letter that loving him was terrifying and loving you was safe. But I was wrong. Loving you was the bravest thing I ever did. Because Daniel was easy to love. He was intensity and poetry and romantic gestures. But you, Marcus, loving you required commitment. It required showing up every day. It required building something real instead of burning bright and fading. I don't regret choosing you. Not for a single moment. If I had 100 lives, I would choose you in every single one. Sophia is the proof of our love. Our home is the proof. Our 22 years of mundane mornings and quiet evenings and small kindnesses, that is the proof. Don't let a ghost from my past make you doubt what we had. Daniel was my first love, but you, Marcus, were my last love, my true love, my forever love. I'm sorry I kept this secret. I was ashamed of still carrying feelings for someone from so long ago, and I didn't want to hurt you. But I should have trusted you with my whole heart. All of it, including the part that still remembered Daniel. Please forgive me. And please, when you think of me, think of the woman who chose you, who loved you, who would choose you again in a heartbeat. All my love forever and always, your Eleanor. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see through my tears. Sophia was holding me, both of us crying on the closet floor surrounded by Elena's clothes, her jasmine scent wrapping around us like an embrace from beyond. She loved you, Dad, Sophia sobbed. She really, really loved you. She had. All along she had. The letter to Daniel wasn't a betrayal. It was a goodbye. And the letter to me was the truth she'd always wanted me to know. Reflection. Sometimes the whole story changes everything. 3 months later, I drove back to Santa Cruz. The spring had transformed the coast. Wildflowers blooming along the highway, the ocean a brilliant blue instead of winter gray. The air smelled of salt and new growth, that particular California spring scent that always felt like possibility. Daniel's wind chimes were still singing when I pulled up to his cottage. He was sitting on the porch with a guitar across his lap, playing something soft that I almost recognized. Marcus. He set down the guitar and stood up. I wasn't sure I'd see you again. I found another letter, I said. Elena wrote one to me too. She'd hidden them together. I handed him a copy I'd made of Elena's letter to me. I watched him read it, watched his expression shift from curiosity to understanding to something like relief. She chose you, he said quietly. In the end, even when she was saying goodbye to me, she chose you. She did. Daniel smiled. A real smile this time, though sad. I'm glad. I'm glad she was happy. I'm glad you made her happy. Thought, sometimes closure requires facing what you feared most. We sat on his porch for an hour, two men who had loved the same woman, finding an unexpected peace with each other. Daniel told me more stories about young Elena, how she'd once convinced him to sneak into a closed botanical garden at midnight, how she'd cried the first time she heard him play Clair de Lune, how she'd made terrible coffee but insisted on making it anyway because she said the effort was what mattered. And I told him stories too, about Elena as a mother, fierce and loving, about Elena as a wife, practical and passionate in her own way, about Elena in her final months, brave and graceful even as her body failed her. She became someone wonderful, Daniel said, someone stable and grounded and real. I like to think that the girl I knew grew into the woman you married. Maybe we both knew pieces of her, I said. Maybe that's okay. Maybe one person can't contain another person completely. Maybe love isn't about possession, Daniel agreed. Maybe it's about witnessing, being present for the parts they choose to share with you. When I left, Daniel gave me something, a cassette tape, old and worn, labeled Eleanor's Song in faded ink. I wrote this for her in 1995, he said. I never played it for anyone else. I think you should have it. I listened to it on the drive home, a guitar melody that was beautiful and haunting, and I understood why Eleanor had loved him. But I also understood why she'd left, because some loves are too intense to sustain, too brilliant to last, and Elena had wanted a love that would last. She'd found that with me. The letter proved it. Reflection. The heart is vast enough to hold many loves, but we choose which ones we build our lives around. Back in Napa, I made a decision. I wasn't going to hide Elena's letters, either of them. They were part of her story, part of who she was, and they deserved to be known. I showed them to Sophia, who read them both and finally understood her mother as a complete person, not just mom, but a woman who had lived and loved and made complicated choices. We spent a weekend going through all of Elena's things, and we found more evidence of the person she'd been before I knew her. A journal from college, photographs of her and Daniel looking young and invincible, pressed flowers from concerts and art shows and nights I'd never known about. But we also found evidence of the life we'd shared. 22 years of birthday cards and anniversary notes, and little messages she'd left around the house. A drawer full of photographs from family vacations. A box of Sophia's childhood artwork that Eleanor had saved. Letters she'd written to me over the years, during business trips and brief separations. Letters I'd forgotten about, but she'd carefully preserved. She documented everything, Sophia said, amazed. Your whole life together. She was practical, I said, smiling for the first time in weeks. She believed in keeping records. This story reminds us that love is never simple, and the people we love are never just one thing. They carry histories and secrets and whole lives we may never fully know. But that doesn't diminish what we share with them. It makes it richer, more human, more real. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel for more stories about the complicated nature of love. Share in the comments. Have you ever discovered something unexpected about someone you loved? How did it change the way you saw them? I visit Elena's grave every Sunday now. I bring flowers, jasmine, always jasmine, and I talk to her. I tell her about Sophia's new job, about the vineyard finally producing award-winning wine, about the sunset I watched from our deck that reminded me of her, and sometimes, when the wind is right and the valley is quiet, I play Daniel's song on my phone. I let the melody drift over her grave, a gift from her first love delivered by her last one. I've made peace with Elena's secret, not because I've forgotten it, but because I've integrated it into my understanding of who she was. She was a woman who contained multitudes, the passionate girl who danced in the rain and the practical woman who built a life with me. She was both, always, and I was lucky enough to be chosen by both versions of her. Daniel was right. Love isn't about possession. It's about witnessing, being present for the parts someone chooses to share with you. And even though there were parts of Elena I never knew, the parts she shared with me were real and precious and enough. More than enough. Some nights, when I can't sleep, I read both letters side by side, the goodbye to her past and the declaration to her present, and I understand now that they were never in opposition. They were both true. They were both Elena, and I love